U.S. Democratic nominee Joe Biden's son Hunter was allegedly revealed to have made extensive financial gains from a Chinese company. A series of emails obtained by the New York Post show more information. A lawsuit highlights a common point of Chinese corruption, rampant extortion, and blackmail. One police chief offers to make the charges against one company disappear for a price. Chinese Communist Party head Xi Jinping returned to Beijing from his visit in southern China earlier than expected. But China's state-run media can't explain why. Suspicions are rising, especially after Xi was seen coughing during a recent speech. And Taiwanese authorities say they still can't locate 48 citizens who went missing in China. This as China broadcasted forced confessions from Taiwanese nationals. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Following the emails showing Joe Biden's potential involvement with Ukraine, more documents have surfaced involving Biden's son. This time, Hunter Biden is found to have business ties to China.
According to the New York Post, emails show that Hunter Biden pursued lucrative deals involving CEFC China Energy Co., one of China's largest private energy companies. The emails show Hunter Biden discussing business ventures, including some that he said would be, quote, interesting for me and my family. One email chain sent to Hunter Biden on May 13, 2017, shows discussions of compensation packages for 6 people involved in an unspecified business endeavor. Hunter Biden was named chair/vice chair, depending on the agreement with CEFC, with a pay quote of $850. The email also detailed a provisional agreement where 80% of shares would be divided between 6 people. In another email chain dated August 2, 2017, Hunter Biden discusses a deal with CEFC's former chairman, Ye Jianming, in which Hunter holds half ownership and a 3-year guarantee of $10 million payments per year. This payment would compensate introductions alone. Ye has ties to the Chinese military and intelligence service and was taken into custody by Chinese authorities in 2018. A photo from August 1, 2017 shows a handwritten diagram illustrating the split in ownership of Hudson West between Hunter Biden and a chairman. According to a report on Hunter Biden's overseas business dealings, a company called Hudson West 3 opened a line of credit in 2017. This report was released in September by Senators Ron Johnson and Chuck Grassley. Another document labeled Attorney Engagement Letter was reportedly executed in September 2017. The agreement shows Patrick Ho, one of Ye's top lieutenants, enter an agreement with Hunter Biden to pay Biden a $1 million retainer for counsel to matters related to U.S. law and advice pertaining to the hiring and legal analysis of any U.S. law firm or lawyer. Joe Biden's campaign has not yet commented on these specific allegations. A spokesperson for the campaign did say that Twitter's suppression of the article detailing the Ukrainian allegations proved that the claims are false. Christina Kim, NTD News.
Many have been reacting to the news of Hunter Biden's alleged ties to the Chinese regime, including President Trump. Twitter has again suppressed users from posting the New York Post article linking Biden to China.
The public is reacting to the news of Hunter Biden's financial involvement with the Chinese regime. In an interview with Alex Salvi, Rudy Giuliani said that only about 5% of Biden's hard drive was published, and that there are at least 2 more situations more serious than this. Giuliani went on to say the real big money corruption takes place with the Chinese Communist Party, and these documents raised national security problems. Internet users have been reposting the story, but were prevented from doing so by Twitter. At one point on August 15th, Joe Biden Ukraine scandal and crooked Joe Biden were trending on Twitter. Earlier, Twitter stopped its users from posting a New York Post story that contains alleged details of Hunter Biden's dealings with a Ukrainian energy company. An exposed email said that the former vice president had met with an advisor of the company. On the evening of October 14th, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey posted on his personal account that Twitter's action and communication regarding the New York Post story about Joe Biden's son was not great, and that blocking URL sharing via tweet or DM with zero context as to why they were blocking was unacceptable. On October 15th, Twitter blocked its users again, this time for posting another New York Post story on Hunter Biden's business ties to China. Texas Senator Ted Cruz said this behavior was an unprecedented interference on the American election. He said while Biden should answer whether or not the New York Post stories are true, it is not the job of big tech companies like Twitter and Facebook to censor political speech.
And Twitter is actively blocking, right now, this instant, stories from the New York Post alleging corruption and the Biden family receiving millions of dollars from communist China.
Cruz said that Twitter is using its corporate powers to silence the press and cover up allegations of corruption. The senator says he plans to subpoena Twitter CEO over his handling of what Cruz calls election interference.
And the committee today will be noticing a markup on Tuesday to issue a subpoena to Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee next Friday.
The news of Hunter Biden's leaked emails draws interesting parallels with a previous Senate report. Senate Republicans last month released the findings of the investigation. It looked into corruption allegations against Joe and Hunter Biden. They found no evidence of improper influence or wrongdoings, but the report identified transactions between the Biden family and the Chinese oil tycoon Ye Jianming as questionable.
The Senate report shows that Hunter Biden is the co-owner of a holding company named Hudson West 3. That's along with co-owner Dong Gongwen, an associate of Chinese tycoon Ye Jianming. In August of 2017, Ye Jianming's company CEFC wired $5 million to a U.S. company called Hudson West 3. In the year following the $5 million transaction, Hudson West 3 sent frequent payments to Biden's law firm Owasco. Described as consulting fees, the payments totaled about $4.8 million. Around the same time, Hunter Biden's company moved over $1 million to his uncle, James Biden's consulting firm. When the bank reached out to James Biden's wife, Sarah Biden, to clarify the activity, she refused to provide any supporting documents. And in September 2017, Dong Gongwen opened a bank account together with Hunter Biden. Hunter, James, and Sarah Biden were all authorized users of credit cards associated with the account. They later used the cards to purchase over $100,000 worth of luxury items. A previous media report shows that in 2017, Hunter Biden helped negotiate a deal with Ye Jianming to invest $40 million in a natural gas project in Louisiana. The project reportedly fell through the following year. Biden had also reportedly agreed to represent another of Ye Jianming's subordinates, Patrick Ho, in his corruption trial. Ho was sentenced to 3 years in New York's federal court for bribing top African officials to obtain local oil businesses. According to a New York Times report, when American authorities arrested Patrick Ho, the first phone call he made was to James Biden. Chinese businessman Ye Jianming is no ordinary Joe. He was once touted by the media as the Chinese Rockefeller. His company, CEFC China Energy, was private in name, but hired numerous high-ranking former officials of the Chinese military as executives. Ye's company publicly admits that their overseas business served the Chinese regime's strategic goals.
We still need to closely follow the government's policies and serve the state's strategic interest. In the past few years, CEFC China Energy has made some really good strategic layouts in Middle Asia and the Middle East. All of these layouts are to serve the government's strategy.
In 2017, for example, the company bought 14% stake in Russia's state oil giant, third only to the Russian government and the UK's BP. Ye Jianming also served as an economic advisor for the Czech Republic's pro-Beijing president. The European Union member country was once seen by Beijing as a stepping stone to stretch its influence in Europe. Ye fell out of favor with Chinese authorities in 2018. He was charged with embezzlement. He since disappeared from the public eye. The Biden campaign called the report a Republican attempt to distract the public from the pandemic.
Now we turn to China. According to Hong Kong pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily, an insider confirms that Chinese Communist Party or CCP head Xi Jinping has returned to Beijing from his visit in southern China. Xi's trip brought him to Guangdong province. There he gave a speech to mark the 40th anniversary celebration of the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone on Wednesday. The event comes at a crucial time for China, as the country faces both domestic and international challenges. With the public eye focused on him, many expected Xi to cover more ground during the trip. But in a surprise move, he returned to Beijing after just 3 days. On Thursday, the Chinese regime's media mouthpiece, Xinhua News Agency, unexpectedly published a conclusion report about Xi's trip to Guangdong. The sudden end to Xi's trip aroused suspicion. In China, information related to regime leaders, like details about their families, health, and agendas, is concealed from the public. That means Chinese people must often piece the limited information together in an attempt to discover what's really going on. This case is no exception. During his speech at the anniversary event, Xi coughed several times over a short period and spoke noticeably slower than usual. As a result, some suspect his visit was cut short due to health reasons. This is the third time Xi has visited Guangdong province. He made a stop at its capital city of Guangzhou during his last trip there, but not this time. According to the Apple Daily Report, China expert Willie Lam thinks this may be related to one of the most important annual party meetings, the 5th plenary session of the CCP Central Committee. It's set to be held in 10 days on the 26th. Lam says he believes he returned to Beijing to prepare for the session. He explained that's because he needs to ensure his reappointment in 2022 and likely seeks to become the permanent head of China. The previous 5th plenary session, held by former CCP chairman, had a major impact on the positions of regime leaders. For example, 3 former high-level CCP officials, including Xi, all officially gained their titles during the 5th plenary session. Now we look at a case featuring another common issue in China, rampant extortion and blackmail. One Chinese company is reportedly facing a lawsuit, but a local police chief offered to remove the charges for a price of millions of dollars.
An audio recording of a police station chief went viral earlier this week. Liu Peng, the commanding officer of a police station in Sili County of Hunan Province, was talking to a company representative about his way of settling a case.
It's easy if you're willing to pay. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get some money. Normally the financial cases involved at this stage, they have hit some difficulties and will talk. They will pay money to get the case over with. We close the case with reasons of insufficient evidence or unclear facts. From the beginning, my intention was to get some $2 million, $3 million.
According to Chinese online media, this happened to Ye Si, the former legal representative of Wuhan Yuanchang Group. The case was recorded at a police station on May 12th. The report says police seized 2 of Yuanchang Group's legal representatives and froze the company's funds. The company was forced to suspend its operations. Inventories to a value of $40 million expired, and nearly 1,000 people lost their jobs. Police Chief Liu repeatedly emphasized that money could settle the case. He originally asked for over $7 million. The price finally dropped to around $1.5 million. U.S.-based former policeman from Dalian City, Liu Xiaobin, said that it's very common for police to extort money.
Whenever corrupt officials are exposed, it's common that they own assets of $15 million, $150 million, or $500 million. The high-ranking officers in the security system abuse their power to arrest people. Then when they realize some cases are lucrative, they would plot to extort money out of the accused. That's how they handle cases.
Liu said it's often that false cases are brought against people. He said the police invent a reason to arrest people to try to get money out of them. He gave an example from the police station he used to serve. The chief asked police officers to seize sexual workers and their clients and then release them as long as they pay a fine.
There were no receipts for the fine. It's normally $700 to $900 per fine, paid to the police station. I don't know how much the chief got from this. Those people knew it was impossible to get this money back.
Liu said the police won't handle cases if there's no profit in it for them. He said, for example, there are numerous cases of human trafficking and so many women, children, and college students have disappeared. Surveillance cameras are all over the country, so why do these cases still go unsettled?
They won't do it if there's no profit. They put all their thoughts on profit, and everything is associated with profit. Also, courts abuse their powers when making judgments. It's commonly called talking cream off both the plaintiff and the defendant.
Liu said that this behavior was a result of the Chinese Communist Party system. Reporting by Chen Han and Xu Wanhui, NTD News.
Now we turn to Hong Kong. Authorities are tightening their grip on the region's civil servants, a group of almost 200,000 people. Hong Kong's Civil Service Bureau issued a notice this Monday asking all civil servants to uphold Hong Kong's basic law and swear allegiance to the city's government. Those who started working before this July have to sign a written statement. High-level officials have to take oaths, and acting against the oath would lead to serious consequences. Hong Kong Civil Service Chief Patrick Nip said those who don't maintain allegiance may intend to overthrow the current government. They could be fired or subjected to punishment under Beijing's national security law on Hong Kong. Under the law, those convicted could face life in prison. The chief's comments remain vague about what exactly amounts to failing to uphold the law. The lack of clarity is raising concerns. A Hong Kong political scientist told news outlet Ming Pao that civil servants have the freedom to disagree with the government, but that's different than a desire to overthrow the government. He explained that civil servants' freedom could be at risk if authorities don't clearly define the boundary. A leader of Hong Kong Civil Servants Union says the workers' biggest fear right now is facing possible prison terms for saying the wrong thing. Pro-democracy legislator Ted Hui says the government's move is political manipulation. He said it's fine for civil servants to uphold the law, but authorities are really trying to ask the public to be loyal to the communist regime and stop saying things that the regime doesn't like. As concerns rise in Hong Kong, the U.S. is stepping in to help. It's threatening to sanction banks for doing business with certain individuals, specifically those responsible for China's crackdown in Hong Kong. In a report to Congress, the State Department said it would name financial institutions that conduct significant transactions with 10 people deemed to be involved, adding it would be done within 60 days. Including on the list are officials like Hong Kong's chief executive Carrie Lam. All 10 of the officials were already sanctioned in August by the U.S. That's for their role in cracking down on the city's pro-democracy movement. Wednesday's report didn't add anyone new to the list, but it did give details on what the so-called secondary sanctions could entail. Restrictions on U.S. loans, foreign exchange, property transactions, exports, and transfers. That's in addition to measures against the executives. Washington has called the new national security law in Hong Kong an unacceptable breach of China's one country, two systems commitment toward the former British colony. Now we turn to Taiwan. Authorities said they still can't locate 48 Taiwanese who went missing in China over the past 4 years. Last Sunday, Chinese authorities said they arrested a group of Taiwanese spies. And this week, China's Central Television broadcasted forced confessions of 4 Taiwanese nationals. Chinese authorities accused them of spying for Taiwan's government. A Taiwanese legislator believes they're being held as hostages. Families of the 4 said they went missing in China over a year ago. The deputy minister of Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council accused Beijing of repeatedly arresting Taiwanese citizens for apparently spying. He said the communist regime deliberately sabotages cross-strait relations. He also warned Taiwanese residents about the risk of arbitrary detention when visiting the mainland. Over the past 4 years, almost 150 Taiwanese residents were reported to have gone missing in China. Now we turn to a new poll. It shows Americans are willing to take significant risks to defend allies against threats from China. Those allies include Japan, Taiwan, Australia, South Korea, and partners in the South China Sea. The poll was run by Washington-based think tank, the Center for Strategic and International Studies. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is a strong willingness to take big risks to defend allies, the American public scored an average of nearly 7. The think tank polled 1,800 people, including the American public and thought leaders across different countries. The survey also revealed that over 50% of those polled think China poses the greatest challenge to the U.S. And a majority of thought leaders polled support banning Huawei from their markets in the U.S., Asia, and Europe. Now we look to a major river in Asia. Beijing has built several dams that impact the countries downstream of the Mekong River. The lower Mekong countries suffered severe drought last year, which once again raised the issue of China's dams. In 2019, when the water level was expected to be at around 24 feet, the indicator showed the water level only reached 8 feet. A senior American diplomat, David Stilwell, accused China over its manipulation of the Mekong River and said it posed a direct challenge to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The 2,485-mile Mekong is one of the world's longest rivers. It's winding its way through China, Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam, and is a life source for 60 million people. It is one of the most productive rivers on Earth, supporting tens of millions of people with its nutrient-rich waters and fishing grounds. But many dams in China on its upper stream have changed this natural wonder into a disaster. The Mekong flows from the glaciers of the Tibetan Plateau. Nearly half of it is in China's Yunnan province before it reaches Southeast Asia. In China, Mekong is called Lanchanjiang River, meaning turbulent water flow. The river is mainly used to drive turbine generators. From 1995 until this year, China has built 11 dams on the upper Mekong River. Beijing has now started its second phase of dam building, with 8 in the schedule this time. People who rely on fisheries say their catch has plummeted. Persistent droughts and sudden floods have hit farmers hard. During last year's rainy season, there was a stark contrast between the situations of upper and lower Mekong. While the Chinese section had above-average amounts of water, the downstream countries suffered severe drought, exposing cracked riverbeds during what should have been an abundant fishing season. Experts warn more dams will destroy the entire natural ecology of the Mekong River. Maura Moynihan, as a longtime China watcher and Tibet activist, expressed her concern.
And again, once you've built these dams, it's really difficult to unbuild them and to reverse the environmental damage caused by these dams.
A survey of the Mekong River Commission found that if all the dams planned for the river were built according to schedule, by 2040 the impact would be huge. The survey suggested 97% of the sediment that once flowed into the river mouth would be intercepted, leaving the land downstream without the nutrients needed for agriculture. The dam on the Lanchanjiang River, the Chinese part of the Mekong, is second in size only to the Three Gorges Dam and 100 meters taller than the Hoover Dam in the United States. It's called the Xiaowan Dam and has a storage capacity of 15 billion cubic meters. According to Richard Cronin, a Mekong expert and director of the Stimson Center's Southeast Asian program, if full, Xiaowan, together with the 4 other dams already built, would have a geopolitical impact on the 5 countries bordering the Mekong River simply by controlling the downstream flow of water. He said Chinese dams worsen the droughts in the lower stream countries. Maura Moynihan said the Chinese Communist Party uses these dams on the Tibetan Plateau to gain them power and control over Asia, the world's largest continent.
So they have a grip on the water tower of Asia, so they can turn off the switch anytime they want.
The Mekong-U.S. Partnership Declaration stated the CCP's unilateral decisions to withhold water upstream have exacerbated a historic drought. The United States stands with the region and the Mekong River Commission in calling for transparent data sharing, and it should be shared through organizations serving the interests of Mekong region countries, not those of Beijing. And that's all for today's China in Focus. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.